what I was gonna say, you mentioned you put the ghee in your coffee. I I never realized it until recently, but like some of the people in my family were doing what at that time seemed like weird stuff like that. Like I remember my uncle, this was probably like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, was like dumping butter in his coffee. And we were at my grandparents' house and we were like, that's disgusting. Like that's nasty, man. And now it's like cool. Like I think he was putting MCT, like I think he was like on a big Dave Asprey kick or something at that point. But like there's a lot of things I look back at, like my grandparents and like my uncles, they do stuff like that. And now it's like I understand why they were doing that. I don't know if they think about it the same way as like I see it now, but like doing similar things.
Yeah, I remember when was it Strong Coffee? Is that the like a protein styled coffee? Ben
Yeah.
was on them for, I don't know if I think he still is. I don't know, but they don't deliver to Australia, and so I just like that idea. I mean, not that ghee and butter is so high in protein, because it's not. It's, you know, and I just
Fat,
do it more so. Yeah, exactly. I just do it more so because it tastes good. It gets me some calories in the morning as well. So I do like the ghee and the MCT, and then I won't eat until after my workout. And I've heard some things too. I don't know how true it is. But with butter or with ghee, it actually slows the kick of coffee. Not that it affects me, because like I said, I can have 900 coffees in a day and it just doesn't do anything to me. But for some people, like it'll slow that buzz rather than having like this massive spike for an hour or so. It slowly, gradually kicks it out over time. I don't know how true that is. I've spoken to a couple of people and that's what they've said. But I guess we need to study the data, the meta-analysis and whatever else there is to figure out.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't looked at that at all. Yeah. So when do you work out then? So you don't eat until after you work out?
Yeah. So always, since doing Muscle Club and having that really good foundation and consistency with the programming from Keegs, like it's been good for me to get it done in the morning. Like I'm a morning workout kind of guy. I did one actually not a Saturday, so 2 days ago. I did the workout. What time was it? It was like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. First time I've ever done it, a workout. Whereas like, and you would be the same from football training. When you train, you're always training personally here, we were always training in the evening. So for me, it was always like I was constantly training in the evening. But when I would do gym sessions, whether it be a class or something like that, when I was a little bit younger, it would always be in the mornings. So yeah, the Muscle Club has been training in the morning. But what was really, really interesting is that I trained for the first time in the evening for a really, really, really long time. And ended up doing bench press for the first time in I don't know how many years. I've had some consistency over the last 2 or 3 weeks of doing some pressing, some bench press, overhead press and that. And that day on Saturday, I ended up getting a new 1RM. So I hadn't bench pressed consistently for probably more than 2 days in a row, or 2 sessions in a row of bench press, and ended up doing my 5RM at my old bench press 2.5 years ago. And then I'm like, oh shit, this was good. What's going on? Like, and so then I just ended up chucking a little bit more on the bar. And every time before I sat down to, like, I wasn't scheduled to do a 1RM, but I thought, you know what, like I haven't done this in a while. I'm feeling really, really good. So I might as well take advantage of it now and do it. And so just got under the bar. And every time before I pick the bar up, I'm like, right, you will know when you pick this bar up, whether you can get back up or not. And so every time I pick the bar up, if I had like the smallest bit of doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be able to do it, because I don't have a choice, I have to get the bar up, because I can't just let it come. I haven't got there were no safety bars, and I ain't going to call out to my pregnant wife and say, babe, help. So it was like, as soon as that bar comes up off the rack, you either put it back or you go down and you come back up. And it was like, I got to 70. My numbers are still up there on the board. So 70 for 5. which I said was like my 1RM last time. And it's ridiculous. I haven't bench pressed in over 2 years, like I said, consistently. So I was trying to figure out in my head, I'm like, how have I managed to get stronger? And is it because of all the deficit push-ups, handstand push-ups that I've been doing and the work on handstands, which I'm assuming that it is. But it's like, it blew me away because I didn't understand it at the time. I just felt so good. I'm like, oh, we'll go up again and we'll go up again and we'll go up again. And I'm just like, oh, all that work that's been put in for the last 7.5 months doing handstand with Uncom has obviously transitioned into my bench press, which is really, really cool. So yeah, so sorry to go on a tangent, but in the mornings I work out in long.
Did you do any other kind of pressing besides the handstand push-ups and the deficit stuff?
Just overhead pressing is what I've been doing with Muscle Club. So like the strict press dance style training, which has just been every minute on the minute, X amount of reps, then adding in like an accessory, for example, was the hammer curls. And it wasn't like it was a ridiculous amount of weight either. It was weight that I could consistently do over that period of time. So, but it's not like there's no way that in 2 weeks of Muscle Club, I could have, just from doing strict press, I could have upped my bench press by 12 kilos, my 1RM by 12 kilos. I believe it's got to do with just being able to tap into more of that range. And that's what I think has happened with all the dense stuff that I've been doing and all the extra range stuff that Keegs has really been speaking about, whether it's like the deficit handstand push-up or deficit push-ups, because you're able to tap into a little bit more range. You can really press through and use, in simple terms, just use more muscle to be able to get that, or use more tissue to be able to press that weight through. So apart from the pressing of the handstand and the body weight stuff, like that's pretty much it. And what was weird, I felt so comfortable. Like usually when I had heavy weight, whether it was in a bench press or up overhead, I just didn't feel comfortable. Like I would get the weight up, or I would be having the weight on my shoulders to press up overhead, and I didn't like that feeling. It just felt, I felt really compromised. So like, because I'm not used to, like with heavy weights for legs, RDLs, squats, that kind of stuff, no dramas. Like, and I feel comfortable to bail out of that. Whereas with bench press, it's like, it's a different, maybe it's because the weight's at my head, and I'm like, if I fuck this up, it's going to come straight down for me, and I freak out a little bit. But this time I just felt like super composed, super in control, super confident that I could be able to get this weight down and back up again. So it was really, really interesting.
That is a fun one with, like, there was a period of time, like beginning of this year, end of last year, where I was like, all right, I want to get strong on the bench. Like I really want to bench. So I was benching a lot, and like I would do a max each week, like a max effort one. And it was like, it really is like, it's not like a squat. Like when you have a bunch of weight in your arms and you're like, I don't know if I can get this. And then like I'm an idiot, so I would do it anyway. I didn't have that sense of like, I don't know if I can get this. I probably shouldn't do it. But I had spotter arms, so it was fine. But like it gets all the way down and you're like, now I have to push with every ounce of my being. Like I almost turned into a decline press because like my butt shot off the bench. It was, I mean, I got it up, but it's not the same as a squat, I don't think. No.
Like having done, squatting for quite a while, it just feels like you've got that. I wouldn't say that it's more comfortable though. Like I wouldn't go ahead and say the squats are easier than bench press, because squats are just as hard in terms of like the movement. But I think it's because we're so comfortable with our lower body in comparison to our upper body, or maybe because of where the weight's positioned and where the weight's coming down to. Like imagine
you
that.
can just bail on it too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Whereas the bench press, you have to trust.
You can't just
throw your hands up in the air, just let it go.
Yeah,
all right,
I'm
see
done.
ya. Yeah. Whereas a squat, you're right. You can tip it forward, or you can drop it back and get out. Bench press, it's not the same.
It's on you.
Yeah, it is on you, especially if you don't have the spotters. Like if you ain't got no spotters and you got to bail, you got two choices. You let that come down on top of you, or you press it up. Like there's no choice. So you might as well press it up.
Yeah. I still remember getting like 95 or 135 pounds pinned on my chest in high school at like the local gym. Oh man, somebody had to come and pull it up off of me. And then I like went on to my next exercise. I did like 1 or 2 sets, and it was like I have to go home. Like I can't.
The embarrassment or the
I just left. Like I couldn't. I was so embarrassed because it was like it wasn't a lot of weight, and it was just like pinned on me. I was like,
yeah,
somebody's got to come. Help me! And I didn't want to yell, so like I just waited there. And then eventually somebody came and was like, "You need help," and just like pulled it up. Yeah, that was.
And then
bad.
you're like, what are you doing, man? I'm doing a pause rep down the bottom here. Like, thanks anyway.
Yeah,
I was just.
Yeah, what are you talking about? This is a 75-second pause rep.
When do you train? You're more of a mid-morning, early arvo kind of guy, aren't you?
I like the 11 to 2 range during the day. Mm-hmm. Like if I don't like working out at like 5 or 6, like I feel like I'm like I've expended a little bit too much energy during the day to like really hit it hard then, and I'm just not ready at like 7 in the morning. It's too early for me.
Yeah,
11:30 is usually when I lift. Actually, it's almost always when I lift during the day, and that's like prime time for me. Like I feel ready. Like I'm awake enough, but I'm also like haven't gotten tired yet for the day.
Yeah. See, I'm more so 11:30 would be like the middle for me. I'd probably go between 9 and maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock and 12 is like a good window for me. Because when I hit that afternoon, like especially when it's not sunny now, but because it's been pissing down with rain again. But when that sun comes up, that afternoon sun starts coming, I'm like, it's siesta time, man. Like I don't want to lift weight. I want to chill out and relax, or I might just get some work done. It's not like a time for me to just start throwing out all this energy and spending all this energy on lifting weights and moving weights. But that's like the prime time for me. It's interesting, like, because we spoke about this last time with the neurotransmitters. Do you think that has to do with, or it does have to do with it, doesn't it? Like your time when you're ready to work out, or is that something that I've got confused with something else?
I don't know. I don't know if you're. I'm not aware of anything with that. I have no idea. Like, because there's a chronotype that I'm not super familiar with, but there's a chronotype.
It could potentially, like, you might have.
Oh, very well could, yeah.
Like, have the tendency to, let's just say they're dopamine dominant. They might want to work out at a particular time of the day because they just feel charged and ready to go. And it could be similar for all different types of people. It'd be interesting, actually, like if you were to go into. Obviously, there's a lot of things that play a part. So, like, work is a big one. Some people just like coming in the morning because they can get the workout done, and then they get to go to work afterwards. But then you've got some other people too, like where they might enjoy working out in the middle of the morning, or they might enjoy working out in the afternoon because they don't want to get up early in the morning. And then obviously, that's got a lot to play with it because they don't want to be tired before work and blah blah blah. But it'd be interesting if someone had done a study with like a group of people, whether it's you go to, I was going to say Planet Fitness, but that wouldn't be the best place to go. But like, I'm trying to think of another place in the US, like a massive
like
gym,
an LA Fitness.
Yeah, like something like that, where you've got, a lot of people that are going to the gym, and you could take a 6 month, 12 months. So obviously, it'd take a while, but you'd be able to sort of, and then do the test afterwards, or test before and test to see what times they go. It'd be really, really interesting to know whether that would play a part or not, or I mean, I don't know, but it'd be pretty cool to kind of hypothesize, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I went to LA Fitness like in the at like 5:30 in the morning for a while when I was in school, like not because I wanted to, but like because I thought it was like a cool thing to do to like go lift it really early in the morning, and then I would go train. But like we were talking about this, like we've talked about it a whole bunch of times, but to take a quick tangent, some of the guys I played with were here earlier today to watch one of our friends is playing in the college national tournament right now. And we were talking about like what would you do if you changed? Because we played with some kids growing up that were like national team kids. And they were like, you would hear stories about like after a game, like their dad would make them go take 50 shots with their right foot, 50 shots with their left foot, like after the match when they were younger. And one of the guys is like, I kind of wish that I had that when I was younger. I was like, no, I don't at all. Like, I wish, like, that's not what I would have changed if I go back. Like, more sleep, more food, less training, better in the weight room. Like, I think some people just don't make that connection. But that's so then I don't know how much. Whether maybe I should have worked out later in the day, but it's that's another interesting thing.
I think and having had these conversations for, coming up close to 9 or 10 months or whatever it's been now, and having spoken with you for such a long time, like I think that you're probably on the side of, if we're to look at working out less and then work out more, and then there's the happy medium of in the middle, like you would be on that side of wanting to work out less when you were younger, because it sounds like anyway that you were so excessive with working out in the morning, working out again. And like workout doesn't mean going to the gym, but actually like putting your body under stress or under load with whether it's football training or gym training or something else.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably like one of the small portion that could probably train less, but for a lot of people, it would be training correctly. It wouldn't be necessarily training less. It'd be training in a way that would be able to enhance your performance rather than, and we've spoken about this many times, where you get hours of training in, you're training for 2.5 hours, and only 45 minutes of that session is of high quality. It's like that's when you need to stop. You can hang around and juggle the ball for a little bit and do something that's less intense. But I think it's important to understand that the quality versus quantity, you want to be doing a lot of good actions a lot of the time, not doing less amount of good actions for a longer period of time. You want to be able to get as much in as possible, but of good quality stuff. For you, by the sounds of things, like I said, because we've been speaking for such a long period of time, it just sounds like you were doing so much that it's like, let's just take you back a little bit, let's just bring it back, and we can go out slowly again, or you can just kind of, bring yourself back in a little bit. I don't know. That's what it sounds like to me. And I feel like I can have an opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of my friends growing up, like soccer friends, were that same way. Like train as much as you possibly can. Like we were talking about, like one of my buddies we were on the same team, but he was also trialing with the academy at the same time, and he was like lifting heavy. So he would come to our training. This was in high school, so we were still playing club. He would come to our club training, and then directly after that, he would go to the academy training for another full training. And he did that for the whole season and would play in our games, and then was still lifting the whole time. So and then in the summer we would I don't know if we ever really talked about it, but like there were a couple of us that were like, you see how much the other person's training, so then you want to train that much, you want to train a little bit more. And it was probably not beneficial to do all of that. But I think that should end up how those are just the people I ended up being friends with, because they also trained that much. But it was I think it was bad news for all of us in general.
Yeah. It's interesting because there wasn't that at all here. I mean, you had like the state teams and then some academy stuff, and then you had your club training. There was no gym, not that I was aware of. There was hardly anyone sort of going to the gym, and if you were going to the gym, it wasn't like you were doing anything specific, or you were just going doing bench press, for example, like just going there just to do some upper body movement, and that's it. But there was none of that. I mean, there was definitely a lot of training. There was a period of my life when I was probably between 12 and 15, maybe even 11 and 15. It's when you had the state teams and the zone teams starting to ramp up, and then you would get into the South Australian Institute. It was called SASI back in the day, so South Australian Sports Institute. And it was like, sorry, is that a funny name? Is that? It's changed. It's changed, but it was cool back in the day. But it's changed a lot now. It's become, they tried to make it a lot more professional with the teams that they have. But there was a lot of training going on. I remember just before 3 weeks before I ruptured my second ACL. So I was playing with the Adelaide United youth team, and was doing like double training sessions. So I would train in the morning with the senior team, then I would go to work, then I would come back and do another training session in the evening with the youth team. And I was doing that back and forth for probably 2 to 3 weeks. And then that's where my left ACL stepped in like a divot in training, and my knee went in, and that was it. It just pretty much, that's the noise that it made, maybe a little bit louder. And then I like to go back and think that, I was severely overloaded with that training because it's intense. You're training against men. I was 19 years old, 18 years old, actually, I think. No, I was 19. And you're training against men with the intensity is like through the roof because you're playing against National League players, or you're training with National League players. And then the expectation is like, it's super, super high because you want to improve, but you want to impress as well. And then you come back to the youth team training, and it's like that intensity is still super, super high. So you didn't really have that. And the coaches, they didn't know how to manage, because you've got this intensity of like go through the roof, then you have a break, and 12 hours is enough of a break, and then you come back and you do it all over again. It's just you don't have that you don't have that time to recover and rest. Like I couldn't, obviously, clearly I couldn't hold on to it. And so then there went my ACL, regardless of whether it was from a divot or the pitch or whatnot. It should not have happened. And this is professional too. So this was professional football. It's like the MLS. That's what it was. I would be training with an MLS team, and then I'd be going and training with the youth team, MLS team, youth team, MLS, youth team, and just doing it back and forth. And yeah, sure, it's a lot, but there wasn't much in terms of knowing how to counteract what was going on and like loading the sessions. We're doing so much now with my old soccer club, doing the strength and conditioning for them. Like I've got a hand from a strength and conditioning A-League coach who's been helping me through and guiding me through, and like going through all the data of what the GPS are putting out. Like everything is measured, and this is done more professionally than was done when we were in the youth team. Like sure, it was probably 10 years ago, but it doesn't sound like much has changed. It just sounds very, very similar, where it's like, yep, thrash, be thrashed, just continue to, you have to be able to pick it up, but there's no guidance. There's no like saying or help or anything like that. It's actually a bit frustrating, to be completely honest, and that's the why football in Australia has not taken off like it has in other parts of the world. There's still no second league. There's still only 9 or 10 teams in Australia. Like it's just not where it should be, in my personal opinion. But yeah, sorry for the rant.
Yeah, I remember having like RPE, like how ready we were to play things in the morning in college. We had a whole bunch of different ones, like surveys and different apps or whatever. And it was like, yeah, that's probably a good thing. Because if you scored really poorly, then like coach would hold you out for like some of the more intense portions of practice. But it was also like, who in their right mind at 20 years old is going to say, yeah, I'm probably a little bit too sore to play today? Like, are you kidding me? You got to be absolutely joking me. And like very quickly, everybody figured out how to like say how bad they could possibly feel without like getting pulled out of training. And then if you felt really good, you'd say you felt really good. And then if you felt anywhere below this level, which is where you would get held out, like you would just say this level. Like, so you would never get held out. And it just didn't happen. It was dumb. But I guess you can do a little bit better with like heart rate variability stuff if you have the monitors, but it just doesn't work. Nobody's ever gonna want to stay out of training. I don't know if there's a great way to truly regulate it. Because you're like, even if it's like, yeah, you're smart about it, like, yeah, I shouldn't play today. It's like, well, does that mean you're not going to get to play on the weekend? Like, does that mean you're going to get held out of the game or whatever? So like,
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of things have changed. Like, just to go back, I'm sure that a lot of things have changed from 10 years, but the fact that wasn't part of the trainings, as in like helping and guiding players through back then. I'm sure that it is now, because there's a lot more in terms of like youth coming through the systems here. But it's just frustrating because there could have been so much avoided had it been, and it wasn't just me getting injured either. Like, this is just talking from my own personal experience of rupturing another ACL. But there were a lot of other players as well that were in similar positions with injuries, or, not performing the best in games and playing. Like, I still remember training, doing the double sessions, and I was one of probably 5 players that were doing the double sessions back to back. And yeah, it was fantastic. Like, to be able to be a part of that environment and training with a senior team who plays nationally against, players from teams from around the state, from the country, sorry, was amazing. But had I actually been nurtured a little better when I came to play a game, because I remember I came to play a game, I played 45 minutes, I got dragged at half time because I was physically fatigued. Like, I was done, spent. I couldn't move. I was cramping. I was stiff. This is 45 minutes into a game because the intensity was just set so high. I wasn't prepped. I wasn't prepared well at all. And that's how like performance can just fall off. And then a week later, I ruptured my ACL, and it was like, it was really, really good. And then it was just fall off a mountain slide. But yeah, I guess that's the only way that you can kind of learn too, is by making those mistakes. Well, hopefully people do learn from that, or learn from other people's mistakes. Like the mistakes that I'm sure that we've made. Like you said for yourself, you made those mistakes, you would have trained less. Admittedly, you probably would have trained less. I probably would have trained differently, maybe done more strength work, but you need that guidance. If you don't have that guidance, it doesn't matter how much you do or don't train. If you're not guided, then it's not going to matter.
Yeah, this just jolted my memory when I was lifting with one of my buddies who ended up playing with him in college, but his dad was he was a power lifter. So he's in like the US Powerlifting Hall of Fame or something. He was like a real power lifter in the US. And he would give my buddy workouts, and sometimes I would go do them with him. And we would do things like German volume training. And then neither of us knew what that was. So I remember rocking up and it being like 10 by 10 squats. It's like, are you kidding me? And then I'd be sore for a year and a half after it. And just ridiculous things. Like, I was weaker than my buddies growing up a lot of times, because whether your dad was a power lifter, first of all, you have some of the genetics to be stronger. And genetically, I didn't have the strength genes that a lot of my buddies did who were stockier. I was a skinny kid. So I would try to keep up with them being competitive like that. And just like, I couldn't. I would try my best, but like, I was hitting failure all the time. And they're just like rocking through these 10 by 10 squats. I'm dying. Like, just things like that. Just like, that was dumb.
Mm.
And then not taking the recovery, but it is like, that kind of brings back to the very beginning. It is interesting how like things I understand now I did before, or people I know did before. Like, neither of us knew what German volume training was, but maybe his dad knew what German volume training was and tried to properly, like, I don't know. Like, he lifted against some of the West Side guys when West Side was big back a long, long time ago. But didn't serve me well in the powerlifting standpoint.
Yeah. So just on the weekend, I started another 6-week strength program, so soccer strength program. I did the 6 weeks of like the soccer body, which was the mixture between the football and then some of the body weight strength stuff, which went really, really well. It was an awesome hit out from the young kids, and it was really, really nice to see like the consistency and players turning up constantly. They loved the sessions, which was great. And I've just transitioned into more of strength base. So I've got 5 kids coming to this little single car garage and doing sessions in here. And like, it works, they're sure they might get wet outside because the rain and the weather is unpredictable. But we did some sessions, like some in here and some out there, and it's really cool. And this is like I'm starting to really find more of that drive, and like I've got that passion for these younger kids understanding the strength aspect of football and wanting to get stronger. It's not necessarily doing 100 squats and, you know, millions of RDLs and all that, but it's like one of my mentors a little while ago, we came up with the idea of like, you've got IQ and EQ, like there should be a PQ as well. So you should have like this physical intelligence of understanding that this is how this moves, or this is how you should move this way. And if you can't do that, well, here's some ways to be able to get better at doing that, whether it's squatting cheeks to sneaks or ass to grass, or being able to press overhead without arching your back, or whatever it is. But a lot of these kids, like, and the oldest is 19, the youngest is 17, sorry. But it's like really cool to have this close-knit group of boys who, you know, we do some juggling, we'll do some lifting of weights and all that. But it's really, really cool to finally have that team. Like I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago about seeing the ATG, the camp that you went to with Ben Clarefield and the rest of the boys in Florida. See that unity and that group of people all kind of working together to help each achieve a little bit more, like in that strength aspect and in the gym. It's like, that's what it feels like. It feels cool to finally have experienced that, and then to keep that going for the next 6 weeks is really exciting. So it's interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how these boys trend through the preseason. Mm-hmm. So far, touch wood, so far so good, which is really, really cool to see. They've picked up a lot, and they're doing really, really well.
Yeah, like I think obviously lifting with weights is better, but like even if you just had people get to the point where they could do like 3 sets of 10, 6-second eccentric split squats, like on a flat ground pretty comfortably, like what percentage of the hip flexor and groin injuries are going to be gone? Like 60% of them? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it could be higher than that. It could be something ridiculous amount of them could be gone. Maybe it's 10%, but like still, like how many people, like it would be interesting if you just like grabbed a couple teams and like what percentage of people could do a flat ground split squat with 6-second eccentric. Yeah. Like I would bet not that many of them without the heel being excessive. Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree for sure. Like having done a little bit with the boys, the under 18s last year, like young kids, and a lot of them are just stiff as a board. They don't have the ability to be able to even get their calf to their hamstring, or to keep their chest up as they're dropping down to the bottom of that split squat. Or they just feel like their back leg is just like on a right angle because their hip flexor just does not allow them to get into that extended position. And it's like, when you're doing it in a team, it's, unless you've had that coaching prior, or these kids have had that coaching prior, I'm going to say it's impossible to be able to get the quality out of each player, because you're looking at one person and then in the corner of your eye, you can see someone that's like hunched forwards, or they just don't have the ability to extend themselves, or their feet are too close together because their hamstrings or their adductors or hip flexors or whatever it is, or they just don't have that strength yet in their tendons and their knees to be able to get into that position. Like there's a whole number of things that are going on. So it's like you would need to start them all, I think, regressed to the top, elevation and hand support first, and then you would need to progress them down. But it's such a long progression to be able to get all the way down to the floor. Like that could take weeks, months to be able to do that if you're doing it consistently. That's if you're doing it consistently too. So there'd probably be one, I would say, in each team, only one person that would be able to do it. And that's probably it, I would say. Yeah. And that wouldn't even be one per team. Like there might be the odd case of having 2 or 3 in one team and then 0 in another team. Like, and just they wouldn't, probably because of their exercise age, like they wouldn't understand, or their body wouldn't understand how to get into that position, which is not necessarily fair in going like, do this. And it's like, well, I've never done that before. So is this how you do it? Should it feel this way? Like, so there's a lot of things, and that's where the guidance comes in. That's where the teaching comes in, the explanations, the PQ, physical intelligence, understanding that this is how the movement feels. This is how you should do it. Let's go and do it.
Yeah. I think from my experience, it'd be a little bit higher than 1 per team. Because like if you count the team when I was there, if we don't count me because I knew about it, but I could do it though. When I first started ATG, I could do a flat ground split squat just because I was fairly mobile. But there's a couple guys I worked with on the team. Again, they were more lifting focused already, but there's a couple guys that I had on a flat ground split squat within a session or two. Like once they figured it out, like they could go flat ground. I think you probably could have gotten 5 or 6 out of 30 on my team when I was in college. But like I guarantee all the guys that had the hip flexor and the groin problems couldn't. So like the guys that I could do it with weren't the ones that were getting injured all the time. So
yeah, this is the younger, and this is the younger kids as well. So like these are 16, 17-year-olds who are just proper stiff. Like there was I think maybe 1 or 2 in the 18s last year, in the 2 and a bit months that I did work with them, where we just went out and tried to explore a little bit more in the position, in that lengthened position. And there was 1 or 2 that just looked like, really comfortable. And like I said, it's really hard to coach in that area because it's like there's so many cues and there's only so much that a young kid's brain can take without forgetting about the FIFA pack they got to open in an hour, or going home and playing FIFA Ultimate Team or Call of Duty or whatever else there is, So like there's a lot of benefit in there. And if you were to do it one-on-one, I can definitely say that you would be able to coach more directly comparison to the team, which is obvious. And then you'd be able to have more players doing it. But I would say that there'd probably be, in that under 18s team, absolute max would be 3 boys who could do it flat ground split squat well.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody can do the tib and the calf raises before practice. Like that's not a problem. Like there's always space to do that. If you want to do knee flexion before practice, like get in groups of 3 and have one person hold down each leg and one person's working. If you get everybody to be able to do a full eccentric Nordic, which is lofty, but if you get everybody to do that, imagine how people's knees are going to feel. Especially on flat ground, it's a little bit regressed because you elevate, you don't have to go as far. Mm-hmm. Anyway, then you get people to do a flat ground. If everybody can do, I can only imagine if everybody could do a flat ground split squat and everybody could do a full eccentric Nordic, like you would just be pretty much chilling. And everybody had been blowing up tibs and bent knee calf raises and standing calf raises or FHL calf raises. I can only imagine how good the team would, how many fewer injuries that team would have. Yeah.
You would need to be, especially with the eccentric Nordics, like if you had a big session lined up after the you've done like the prehab or whatever it is before training eccentric Nordics, like it needs to be done on a day where you wouldn't be training. Because I think for a lot of people who haven't really experienced that before, I think it would put them in a bit of a dodgy situation where they'd be like, that doesn't feel so good. Like you would need to, and obviously you would need to do it at a time where trainings wouldn't be at that high intensity. So for example, it would be done on a Monday night or on a Thursday night, which gives you plenty of time and the session isn't as hard going into game day or coming out after game day. Like you would need to find a place to do it. However, in saying that, I do agree. I definitely do agree that you could solve so many issues, even with like Copenhagen's for adductor strength as well, because you don't have, not every soccer team has dumbbells or access to dumbbells for like butterflies to be able to work the adductors. Copenhagen's are just, or adductor bridges as well. There's some really, really good options for adductor strength. Personally, I think.
Yeah. I think I do. I've come to the opinion more recently that the split squat does a really good job with the groin, actually, if you do it properly. Again, it's not the only thing. One thing that it does miss out on that is that inner hamstring that kind of feels like a groin almost, that you have to kind of deal with separately sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it's just little things like that you could do in a practice. I'm trying to think of what else we're kind of missing with that. I mean, and then you can do hip flexor lifts deep down the ground. You can do bar hammer races hanging from the crossbar. There's so many things you can do, and that's what I'm kind of putting together something for when I have the program, like a no equipment thing, and it is good for me to think out loud like this for that. So
yeah,
but I mean, in reality, a butt ton of ankle reps, tip and calf reps, quality split squats, Nordics if you have buddies or can bring a Nord stick or something, and then do some hip flexor strengths and some Copenhagen strengths, and then do some dips and some chins. In reality, that would solve 80% of the problems. I would, in my mind, that would solve 80% of the problems if you mastered all of those exercises.
Yeah. Well, you'd be ticking off a lot of boxes for sure. You'd have ticking off hamstrings, knees, hips. You'd be ticking off, like you said, ankles, calves, shins, and then obviously getting to the upper body stuff. Even if you don't have access to anywhere to do dips, you definitely have somewhere to do deficit push-ups, just bring some.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing it the other day at the club, just lining up bins side by side, and you just literally get up onto the bin, and just to be able to get that range through. It's not that hard when you need to be resourceful, and you're used to being resourceful. You can find ways of making shit happen. You could
use two balls. It's a little bit hard with the stability, but it's good for you.
Yeah.
You're those
shoulders.
Yeah. They both shoot out and you just face plant.
You turn into ab rollouts, just going back and forth with the ball. Speaking of those rollouts in Muscle Club, we've been doing that the long range Nordic with if you have an ab rollout.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Wheel. Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't feel fatigued at all after doing that sort of stuff, especially in that lengthened position. I obviously need to do I need to spend a little bit longer on there working on it, because at the moment my Nordic still is not where I want it to be in terms of that complete flat, cheeks through, just staying flat the whole way through. And damn, it's hard on the Freak Athlete Nordic Mini, because it's like you said, you go down further, and so because you're going down further, it's just ooh, that's nasty. And it is an awesome piece of equipment. It's just so versatile. You can do so much with it. Do Bulgarian split squats on it. You can. Right now, I'm using it as a very comfortable seat because I would sit on something else, and because the padding is it's so soft, and even the it's an awesome piece of equipment. A very, very simple piece of equipment, and yet it just fits in really, really well to a small garage gym. I'm just giving it an epic rap because it is a really, really good piece of equipment. And for those Aussies that are listening, you can actually purchase it now without having to worry about getting it shipped from the US. So for those who are looking, we'll put the link in the show notes, but it's down here, down under. There's a couple of other things that are here as well. The reverse squat strap, the slant boards, the Nordic Mini, and then there's one more thing, which is the escaping llama.
Ankle 360?
Not yet.
Triflexor?
It's not here in Australia yet. It's the the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. But
yeah. But yeah, this is an epic piece of equipment because it's so versatile. You can do so much with it. I was doing deficit handstand push-ups on it the other day, just so I didn't have to get my feet up, and that was after my bench press. So it's so versatile, so versatile, and that's the thing. Like I'm getting into that rhythm now where you have a look at all these awesome pieces of equipment. And you're like, I want that. I want to put it there, and there. And like, especially for me, I have no room in a place like this. It's like, do you really need it? Think about it. If you need it, then yeah, you can get it. But if you want it and it's got no use, then where's the value in it?
Yeah, that's part of the problem that I think. I honestly think I have the most different ways to do Nordics out of any gym in the world.
How many options do you have?
5. I have 5 different dedicated Nordic machines.
Do they all give different feedback? So like out of the 5, is one easier for you than the other? Does one feel different compared to the other 4? Like, or are they all very similar?
Yeah, no, they're actually, every one of them is different. So,
interesting.
Like, if you really wanted to change everything up, the only 2 that are pretty similar are the Nord stick and the Freak Athlete bench are pretty similar. Mm-hmm. Because, so I'll run you through them. It's, I have the homemade one that I made a long time ago. I have the Rogue bench. I have the Freak Athlete bench. I have the Nord stick, and I have the Tib Bar Guys Tib bench, or Nordic bench. Nordic.
Yep.
I don't know what it's called. It's the incline bench that also has the Nordic part on it. Mm-hmm. So the Rogue one is definitely the most well built. Like the Rogue one is awesome. To be fair, like super heavy, way overbuilt, has the nicest padding out of any of them, like by a significant margin. Awesome. Has the foot plate. Golden. The Freak Athlete one, padding is really good as well. We just talked about that. Has the foot plate. The difference is where it cuts off. So when I do Nordics on the Rogue one, my quads hit the pad and it's a little easier at the end. That's the difference between that one and the Freak Athlete. The Freak Athlete and the Nord stick are close because I just use a pad that's about the same size as the Freak Athlete pad, and my feet are on the door so I can push against that. So that's pretty similar in terms of how it feels. Then my bench that I built doesn't have a foot pad, so it's actually harder because you can't use your calf muscles at all. And there's no middle point in the bar. It's just a bar that goes across, so you can put as wide or as narrow as you want your feet to be. So that gives a different feeling. Then I have the Tib Bar Guy bench that doesn't have a foot plate either, but it has the differentiating, and the pad is a little bit different. So there's your comprehensive Nordic review.
You're hitting every like 5 centimeters.
It really is,
of your hamstring going down and across.
Yeah,
you're hitting everything.
And I actually, now that I think about it, with the Tib Bar Guy one, I can turn the bench to a decline, and then it's actually a shorter pad, so your quads don't hit.
Yeah.
Or you can raise it up so that it's like, so if you only do partials, you can do the partials like that.
Mm.
So we got the long one with the foot pad, the short one with the foot pad, the long one without the foot pad, and the short one without the foot plate.
Yeah.
And the one that just goes under the door.
Yeah.
It's like having all the different hamstring curl machines.
You are Charles Poliquin just in Nordics. You've got 100 different options to choose from, and it's like
instead of having the seated, standing, kneeling, and lying hamstring curls, I have the just the cheap version with all the Nordics.
That's the best.
Unreal. It really is like too many.
I was thinking about getting the Nord stick, and I really wanted to get it. And then like I looked at my door, and I'm like, that's a very, very soft, flimsy door. That's not going to go well, is it? Especially if I'm sitting underneath there and there's a dog on the other side that's probably having a right or go, just gnawing at the other side of that Nord stick. and then that door is just like, because it's one of those soft. It's not a hardwood door, so it's like one of those soft honeycomb doors. You can't drill anything into it without it just falling to pieces. So I'm like, probably not the smartest idea to
Probably not the best idea.
No, but I am still going to get one.
I had the idea.
Go.
I was going to say, I had the idea that I think if you brought it to a pitch, you could put it under the goal.
Yeah. If you had the setup with the goals.
Do them on your own.
Obviously, yeah. I was thinking about doing it underneath the fence. Like we've got a fence. It's propped up by a retaining wall, and then it's on top of the fence, so you can kind of slide it in underneath there. That would be ideal for me. Speaking of football, first game of the World Cup. Not that I want to get into it too much. Did you get to watch the game?
No, I was actually training my dad during the game, but
nice.
I heard my buddies watched it, so I heard Qatar is not. I don't know if you're allowed to say it, but Qatar is not very good.
I saw just the goals. Like I'm not getting up at 1:30 in the morning to watch the game, and even so, like there's something weird about this World Cup that I just can't put my finger on. There's something that's, well, there's a lot of things that have changed, with the players that aren't playing, with the teams that are there, and that aren't there. There's just, I don't know, there's a different feel about this one. Obviously with the circumstances as to how it all got to Qatar, and yeah, there's a lot that's been going on. I would just talking about the game solely. Ecuador off to a flying start.
You love to see that for Ecuador. You when do the Aussies play?
23rd, which is 2 days. So pretty much 2 days from now on Wednesday morning. Yeah, 48 hours, just under 48 hours. We got Les Bleus, the French, which is I am.
Oh.
Yeah, see, I'll just go on record here and saying that. I mean, I know that the French team is insane, regardless of whether they're missing N'Golo Kante and Paul Pogba. And there were a couple other players that are missing too. However, like I feel that there's like I said a couple of weeks ago, I feel that there's something different in the air. I can't see it being the same as other World Cups in terms of like, because of the time that it's being played, given the circumstances as well, where it's been like, there's a lot of things going on. Australia might win. Australia might draw. The chance of them doing that is quite low given the quality opposition that they're playing. But still, there's a lot of pressure on France as well, having, done significantly well over the last couple of years. So I'm not saying that the Aussies are going to win, but there's a lot riding here. There's so many different things. I think if I was to predict the score, I'm going to be bold and go with a 1-1 draw.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I would give a 2-0 to France.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. Who? No, that's completely understandable. Who's the US got?
Gareth Bale and a couple of other guys.
The Welsh. That's a big one, man. That's a big one.
They got. It should be a good game. I think that's a 1-0. The US pulls it out.
You reckon?
I think so.
Maybe
a 2-1. 2-1 US pulls it out. I think Gareth Bale do something cool.
Yeah, 2-1 either way.
2-1 US.
All right. I'll just because I'll go 2-1 Welsh. Just because you're bagging the Aussies, I got to bag the US. So like that's just to make it fair.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
What's the Australia's group? Who else is in it?
France. Oh, I've had a blank. Hang on a sec. Let's have a quick look. Did this last time.
Yeah, we've done this before.
We have done this before.
Because the US is the US, England, Wales, and somebody.
Do you have Netherlands? Are Netherlands in your group? The Dutch?
No. Not the US.
We've got France, Denmark, Tunisia. You've got England,
Oof.
Iran, and Wales.
That's I think that's an England tops the group. US comes out. You're going to be battling with Denmark, I think, for a second place in that group.
Yeah, the Danish, given the Euro that they had, they finish semi-finals, I think.
They're good. They're Christian Eriksen's back. They got some. They're trying to smuggle in Erling Haaland as a Dane.
Who was the English team? Ashton FC, Ashton United, that wanted a 28-day loan for Erling Haaland. They put in a. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. No, he's definitely not Danish. He's Norwegian, isn't he? Yeah.
He's Norwegian. He's of my half country. I'm half Norwegian, so it's like half brothers.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's how it works.
Yeah, is Norway just really, really small?
That's why we're both so good at footy.
Are you getting back into it? Are you going to start playing again? You said you wanted to kick about in the summer league. Not the summer league, the off-season league down there. Are you getting back into it?
Yeah. We'll see what happens when the guys are back. I don't know. Just depends on what goes on. We'll see about it. I would like to I'm playing not so competitively with some of my buddies, and it's as competitive as it gets for like rec stuff. So go about and smack some kids up, have an easy time, but we'll see.
Yeah. Nah, that sounds like fun.
I don't know.
What are your thoughts on, like, we've got a US player that's he's from Tennessee. He's played with us last year and he's playing with us again this year. You wouldn't have played against, like, where's Tennessee in relation to Indianapolis? It's like on the other side, isn't it?
It's there's one state in between.
Oh, so it's not that far.
So south of Indiana is Kentucky, and then south of Kentucky is Tennessee. And Kentucky's a pretty short state. So like Indiana's like this, and then Kentucky's probably like that, and then Tennessee is here.
Down there, yeah.
So I played in Tennessee a couple times.
Okay. He's a little bit older than you, so you probably didn't play against him. He was there 2 years ago. He's 26 this year, so you're 22. So probably didn't play it. 23. Oh, you're 23. Getting old. There we go. Climbing up the age ladder.
Yeah. What am I, like half your age?
Yeah, that's about right. He was saying, we'll probably finish up on this one here, but he was saying the artificial pitches that he plays on over here, like, he just hates them. And I'm like, I've got a buddy that loves artificial turf in the US, and he's like, really? I can't do it. I just can't get into it. And his body's, since I've been training here and playing here, I just can't do it. Can't hack it. It's like that's interesting. It's very interesting.
It is interesting. All right, we should. We're going about for an hour. I think we got a delay going on as well, so I think we wrap it up here. Thanks to everybody listening. Steph, where can they find you?
Coach Carly, Instagram. I put a reel up. I'm back on the train, man. Back on the train going again, which is nice. So yeah, Coach Carly with the 3 I's on Instagram. Maddie?
Yeah, I haven't seen your reel. I'll look after this. Yeah, Score Performance, SKAAR Performance, just about everywhere. Uh, yeah, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you all next week.
See you guys.